Guys, going live. What is going on, guys? It's Lando from the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. I am live with you today to help you answer any start sit questions. And we have got some crazy news, guys. The Denver New England game is postponed. They're likely to play next week, so get these guys out of your lineup. There's no backup agreements with this game. But it's a Sunday news that just kind of shakes it. So the big guy was Melvin Gordon that everyone was starting. Not too many players were starting, New England players, except for maybe Edelman and N'Keal Harry. But hopefully you have some backups. So we are here to help you figure that out. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are grinding. We are here every single week, 2 hours before kickoff, helping you get your start set questions get going. And we have a 400 sub goal today, guys. So I'm not sure. I haven't even brought up the stream yet. I'm not sure how many of you are in the chat, but I'm here to help you out either way. We're trying to get that 400 sub goal. So if you haven't already, I'm sure the people watching have. But hit that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button, smash the like button, and we will be here grinding for you today. All right, guys. I see Danny in the chat. What's up, Danny? I've been talking to him on Twitter. Sorry I haven't gotten back to you about your most recent trade and trying to figure out your trade. But honestly, it's Mac is the trade genius here. So we got to get him. He's on the line. He's on Twitter. And he is working it. Danny, throw it in the chat. And Mac will answer if you've brainstormed any trade stuff. You were trying to get rid of, I want to say you were trying to sell high on Odell Beckham Jr. You have Michael Thomas on your team. You got a great roster, man. But I think you have Edelman sitting in the flex if my memory serves me right. So make sure you get him out of the flex and get him a replacement. So we are figuring out some start sit questions today, guys. I've got the boys in my ear. So, yeah. So if you've basically we've got some tough. If you've lost guys on like Jerry Jeudy, or if you were starting Tim Patrick, comment in the chat who you are looking to add from the waiver wire. I can see who's most readily available and trending on Sleeper. So another thing too, the Buffalo-Tennessee game is scheduled to play, but you need backup players involved. So try to get so that's going to be the risk here involved. So we've got tertiary Bills players or Tennessee players that you're not really sure. If you've got A.J. Brown and you cannot rule a backup in, if you can't say, all right, I'm starting A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel is my backup, maybe we have to go with a lower floor guy, Hunter Renfrow, for example, or we go with a Jameson Crowder just for safety. But if try to get your leagues and your commissioners going to get a backup place involved, so you can start that Tennessee or Buffalo player in the starting spot and then get a backup nominated. So if the game for some reason doesn't happen Tuesday because you cannot pivot on Tuesday night to someone else, then you will get the points from your bench. So get that involved. If you haven't, I'm sure we're going to get lots of those questions. We got the first question on YouTube. We have QB to stream. We've got Garoppolo, Rivers, and Wentz. That is a little gross. Michaela, I've seen you here before. Thanks for coming in. I know you're already a subscriber, so we appreciate you coming in. Make sure you hit that notification that we went live. And right now, my gut says Jimmy Garoppolo coming back off of that injury. I'm going to go check my rankings here to see. It's Carson Wentz against Pittsburgh just doesn't seem like it's a good start. He's been struggling. That defense is amazing. He doesn't really have any weapons. Basically, just Zach Ertz and Greg Ward is the only weapon. Jimmy Garoppolo plays Miami, even though they have a run-first offense. I think Jimmy Garoppolo comes back. He's got Deebo Samuel back as a weapon. That connection should be great again. They're pretty much all back-to-back in my rankings. Phillip Rivers is right below. But Cleveland's defense, their rush defense, is elite. So I think they're going to get after Phillip Rivers. I like Cleveland as a streaming defense and on DraftKings. So my safe play is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think that's where I would go against Miami. Hopefully, we're hoping that Miami keeps it a competitive game, Michaela. And Jimmy Garoppolo needs to keep passing the ball. We're not sure how involved Raheem Mostert is going to be this week. I think you can still start Jerick McKinnon on your teams as a flex play. But yeah, I would go Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. It's high risk. And none of these guys really give you that high reward. So unfortunately, you don't have a ton of upside with these players. You're hoping for kind of an 18-point game out of these quarterbacks. So thank you for the question, and we will figure that out. Danny, he's the guy. He's coming in every single week here. He's got a flex. Dobbins, Akers, or Edmonds. I would go with the Edmonds out of that option. It's kind of close, but Dobbins hasn't shown any kind of steady workload. He's getting about the same carries and touches as Gus Edwards. So at least we know Edmonds has been looking good. They've got a really good matchup. Kenyan Drake's been looking really bad. So yeah, go chase Edmonds in those options. Akers is not really a start for me unless I see the workload this week coming off that rib injury. Tommy, what is good, Tommy? He's got Diontae Johnson, DJ Chark, Justin Jefferson, but he can only start 2. That is a tough, kind of good problem to have, Tommy. You've got some really solid wide receivers. Maybe you picked Justin Jefferson up off of waivers. Right away, my first instinct, you go with your studs that have shown it and don't go with the rookies. But, man, Justin Jefferson has 2 consecutive 100-yard games. He plays Seattle. A lot of people have Justin Jefferson as easily a top 20 wide receiver. I would put DJ Chark in there for sure, and I would still go Diontae Johnson in a pretty good matchup. I would say between Diontae Johnson and Justin Jefferson, I think if you want that upside, if you want to ride the hot hand of Jefferson, I don't blame you at all. But I still think Diontae Johnson is an elite talent at the wide receiver position. If you're concerned that he's banged up, then you go Justin Jefferson. But I don't know if you can go wrong, man. I really don't know if you can go wrong. If Justin Jefferson is set up for a really good matchup against Seattle. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting play, Tommy. But yeah, I don't know if you can go wrong there. But my order would be Diontae and DJ just because I've got a ton of confidence in Diontae. But otherwise, you put in DJ Chark and Justin Jefferson if you're concerned with that injury at all. But thank you, Tommy, for coming in and asking that question. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and like button on the video. We've got 11 people watching and 10 likes, so I appreciate all of y'all for coming in. I am ready to get some Sunday action. Happy Thanksgiving to all of the Canadian viewers out there. If you are not a Canadian and you have your American Thanksgiving in a little while, in November, that's always a great day to watch football. I'm gonna book those days off, and we might do like a mega live stream that day. I got the boys in my ear, and they're like, "Oh no, Landon, what are you saying? Don't say it." But maybe we're gonna get things spicy for American Thanksgiving. Michael Costanzo heard Diontae Johnson has Darius Slay on him, so that's a good point. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I think it could be Juju. It could be Diontae. That might temper your expectations. I'm not too concerned with Darius Slay. I know he's an elite cover or shadow corner. Yeah, but I think they're gonna move Diontae and Juju around. Darius doesn't cover the inside of the field, so Diontae works on the inside and out. So does Juju. It'll be interesting to see that. That's a great matchup, or that's a great point, Michael. So in that case, I still think Diontae's a good start this week. I'm starting him in a couple spots and on DraftKings. So in that case, if you think that's the deal breaker, then you go with Justin Jefferson, because we know that Seattle can't cover anyone, and Josh Adams is already ruled out. So it should be a shootout with the Minnesota Vikings and Seattle Seahawks. So it should be both a good game script. Both defenses can't stop anyone. So Thanks, Tommy, for the question. So great input there, Michael. And you got to do your thing, though, homie. Jamal Jones, he's got to start 3. He's got Hollywood Brown, Laviska Shenault, Eric Ebron, Greg Ward, Zacchaeus, and if Julio doesn't play, he's got Zacchaeus there. So he's got to start 3. I have a good feeling about Hollywood Brown this week. So I would start Hollywood Brown. Laviska Shenault's been banged up with a hamstring all week. That just gives me a kind of pause and a little bit of a concern for starting Laviska Shenault. Greg Ward, again, is a gross play a little bit. But again, he's been seeing some targets. At least I could see him easily get 6 to 8 targets in that game. It's not the greatest matchup, obviously, but I mean, it's not going to be a deep depth of target. It's going to be those shallow plays, and Greg Ward just getting those targets. Last week he got targeted mostly in the first half, and then from there you didn't really see him, which is tough to see. I think the first quarter. So Greg Ward, they're all a tough play. Jamal, man, I know why you're asking these questions because it's gross. Let me consult my rankings just to see. I'm not really thrilled about Ebron, but I do think he's got a ton of touchdown upside. I'm playing him in a couple spots in DFS, but it's kind of gross. I would still play Ward over Ebron. In between Ward and Laviska, oh man, that hamstring is a little bit concerning, but I know he's got a ton of talent, so I would technically play Laviska Shenault ahead of Greg Ward. So I'd play your wide receivers, man. I'd play your wide receivers. Zacchaeus is a good option if Julio doesn't play, but I believe that's a late game, so you don't really have a ton of pivots if Julio doesn't play. So if he does play, Zacchaeus probably is going to still be involved, but he's going to see a lot of those Greg Ward touches. So, oh man, it's between Greg Ward and Zacchaeus on those options, I guess. So whatever you think. I mean, so obviously we know that Atlanta has a better offense, so maybe you play him based on the touch squeeze. Even if Julio does play, I think he still gets targets. It's going to be between him and Greg or Russell Gage, for Atlanta. It might be a bit of a touch squeeze between those guys. I do believe Calvin Ridley gets a big bounce back game and will perform this week. We're not going to see all the targets go to those guys. Definitely Ridley will be back involved in this game. I think Hurst is an option, but Atlanta throws a ton, man. That's a really tough option. I think I have good feeling about Julio or Hollywood Brown. So it would go Hollywood Brown, Laviska Shenault, and then it's a coin flip between Greg Ward and Olamide Zacchaeus. So really tough one, Jamal Jones. I feel for you, man. It's a tough play. Eric Ebron, if you want the touchdown upside, but he doesn't have those big yards that the wide receivers have. So great question though. Holy man, that's tough. Eric, easy my man. Fix my flex question. He can only pick one. He's got Boyd, Edmonds, Debo, and Josh Kelly. That's a good team, Eric. In this league, you didn't trade away all your best assets. That's weird. So I would go with Boyd. Almost maybe. So I'd go Boyd, Kelly, Debo, and Chase Edmonds. Although I love Chase Edmonds, I think he's a really good option. I still think Josh Kelly has a safer floor, and Debo Samuel has upside, but we still haven't seen it yet. We do see Jimmy Garoppolo back in the game. If Debo is fully healthy and plays in a high snap percentage, he will start to be an auto start. We just haven't seen it yet. He wasn't involved last week. He might have only had 2 touches. So Debo, I'm still sitting down on my bench a little bit. It's a great matchup. But I'm willing to start him, but I think you got to start Tyler Boyd. You can only pick one. You've got a great bench, easy. And Josh Kelly could be a very good play, could be a very safe floor play, but the workload of Justin Jackson is probably going to eat in. It could be a 50-50 workload. Josh Kelly getting the red zone, those high value looks. So you're hoping for a touchdown again from Josh Kelly. Where Tyler Boyd, we know that Joe Burrow throws the ball a ton, and he's going to get his looks no matter what because AJ Green is washed and probably can be dropped on your waiver wire. So great question, easy. Thanks for coming by, as always. Do I think Bell is going to get decent touches today, or go with Singletary, Jefferson over Michael Thomas? Mr. Rhodey, thank you for coming by, man. I've not seen your name before. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We are grinding here every day, and I'm going to talk through your question to kind of give you my best advice, my best analysis to help you win your week. Because that's tough. We don't really want to trust a guy like Le'Veon Bell after he kind of he's been on IR and he's banged up. But I'm starting, because of these tough situations with the Buffalo and Tennessee game being in question. We need to figure out what to do with a guy like Lev, and if I would really start him over Singletary. So technically, Singletary is above my rankings. They play Tennessee, as I've said before. So Singletary, I'm projecting to have a better game. But Le'Veon Bell versus Arizona will get touches. I believe they wouldn't rush him back if he wasn't fully healthy. He basically hasn't played since week 1, or I think he might have played maybe a snap in week 2. I can't recall. But Le'Veon Bell is going to have a safer floor because we know that game's going to happen. His upside, his potential, I don't think is as big as Singletary's. Singletary has looked good in my opinion. I know he hasn't been involved around the end zone, but you don't necessarily need him to score a touchdown to be fantasy relevant. We've seen it these past few weeks when Josh Allen or Zach Moss has gotten in the end zone. Devin Singletary still remains a top 24 running back. So he's involved in the passing game a little bit. If it was fully on, if we knew 100% that Buffalo-Tennessee game was happening, I would start Singletary, because it's probably a 75-80% chance that game is happening. Your floor remains in Le'Veon Bell. So I know it's a little bit gross. And between Jefferson or Michael Thomas, obviously Michael Thomas, if he's fully healthy, is the start. If you want to wait for Thomas, I don't blame you. They play the Chargers. It's not a great matchup, but it's a late game on Monday, and there's not I would probably start Michael Thomas if I had a game or a player in that game like Keenan Allen as a backup, or even Traquan Smith as a backup. I would wait and probably sit down Jefferson just in case. But again, if Michael Thomas doesn't play, you might as well play Justin Jefferson. Like I said before, Jefferson is this week he's easily a top 24 wide receiver, where Michael Thomas has the upside to be the number 1. No question. If he's fully healthy, he has a potential to be the number 1. But Jefferson still has really good upside. We've seen it the past couple games, over 100 yards, and you go with Jefferson if I think you got to go Jefferson here. It's kind of gross. You want to start your Michael Thomas because he's a stud and you drafted him as the number 1 overall wide receiver. But start Jefferson if you don't have a backup in play. If you do have one of those guys like Keenan Allen, then start Michael Thomas. And then if he's a game time decision and declare it out, then you go with that backup. So it's a tough choice, but hopefully that works out for you. That's a great question, Mr. Rhodey, and hit that subscribe button because we appreciate your questions every single week. Kicks my game. Robert Woods, Gurley, Antonio Gibson, or Diontae Johnson. I need to pick 2. It's a PPR league. Thanks for making sure I know it's a PPR league, because that does make a big difference. When you're asking your questions, and let me know if it's a half PPR, standard league, full PPR, super flex, whatever it may be. That helps me kind of distinguish what players I want. So I'm going to go to my rankings and figure out my full PPR stats. And I'm not too concerned with Robert Woods this week. But between Woods and Diontae, it's for sure pretty close, guys. It's close between Woods and Diontae Johnson. I do still have confidence that Woods can bounce back after a bad performance. I've got Robert Woods ranked higher, but between Robert Woods and Todd Gurley, I would still go Gurley. It's gonna be between Gibson. I think Gibson has a great game this week, and but it's still Robert Woods. I would go. So it's between Diontae Johnson and Antonio Gibson, And for the floor, I do believe Gibson presents a better floor, and I'd go Woods and Gibson for those two. I love Diontae Johnson, like I said before. We've noted in the chat, one of our listeners said that Diontae Johnson could be shadowed by Darius Slay. I'm not projecting that per se, but I think Antonio Gibson had a big 20-point performance. The Rams aren't the best run defense in the league, and I think Gibson has a good matchup. He presents a very much safer floor than Diontae, but the upside still lies with Diontae. We've seen him have these big blow-up games. I'm still confident in starting Diontae this week coming off his injury, but between that, I would go Woods and Gibson, and then it's a close one between Diontae. If you're behind in the matchup, kicks my game. If you need a big performance, if you're facing up against an Allen Robinson already that had a big game, maybe put Diontae in if you need a big game. But if you need a good floor game, you had the Allen Robinson. Then go with the floor play. Go with the running back. They've got guaranteed touches. I'm not projecting it, but maybe Diontae only gets 3 or 4 targets this game, and then you're sweating that matchup. So that's what I would do. Michaela coming in again. Start 3, half PPR. Again, thank you for letting me know the format. We have Juju, Woods, Miles Sanders, Justin Jefferson, leaning towards all 3 receivers. I don't blame you there. Yeah, Miles Sanders is in a really tough spot this week. I think he's kind of the sit of the week here at the running back position. You might have to start Miles Sanders because he's your stud running back. There's not a lot of depth at the running back position this week, this year generally with all these injuries, and you might have to start Miles Sanders. But in a half PPR league, I do think those wide receivers present a lot of safety. Justin Jefferson has been looking like a stud. He's almost that guy that could blow up like Odell did in his rookie year. He seems to be anyways that explosive of a receiver. It's between him and CeeDee Lamb for a top rookie this year, and he's doing his best to try to do that on an offense like the Vikings, which is pretty phenomenal. I don't blame you for leading with the wide receivers. If you're behind in the matchup, you could play all those receivers. If you're up in the matchup and need a safer floor, you're hoping Miles Sanders gets in the end zone and gets those targets out of the backfield because they're going to be in a negative game script against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's D can't stop them from scoring every point, and because of all the banged up options for Philadelphia, Miles Sanders will get targeted out of the backfield. He's probably going to be could be the most targeted player on that team. Greg Ward and Zach Ertz would be the other 2 in question. So we see Mackenzie in the chat. Thank you. We've got something off Twitter. Jilla Jones Drew on Twitter. Gaskin or Evan Ingram in the flex? I would play Gaskin in the flex, but that's a tough spot. Gaskin's been looking pretty good. His matchup isn't great. I think Evan Ingram is a good start this week. And in a half PPR league, we're projecting that game to be a bit of a shootout. And Evan Ingram is a popular choice for analysts to have a breakout game, but I would still play Myles Gaskin. Thanks for coming by off of Twitter, and I appreciate you. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on the video. We've got 13 likes and 16 people watching, so if you haven't already, hit the like button. It means a ton for those YouTube algorithms to come in. We have a ton of comments. Thank you so much, guys, for coming in. I know my homies are grinding on Sleeper and Twitter, so if you're coming over from there, let me know, because we can follow me. I am Lando_FF. Our main accounts on Instagram and Twitter is Snap_Fantasy, and we're here answering every single question you have every single week to try to help you win your matchup. So, Big Dog, what is good, Big Dog? We've got another Diontae Johnson question. It's a good thing did we put Diontae in the thumbnail? Because we have a ton of Diontae questions here. That is spicy. So Diontae or Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's in a really tough matchup against Baltimore. Big dog. So this has got to be like, it's hard to go off of Joe Mixon off a giant game. He was like the number one fantasy output this last week, and it's hard to go off of Joe Mixon even against Baltimore. So right now I've got Joe Mixon. Although he's an elite talent, he is our fringe running back, say between 11 and 13 this week, man. So he's still going to be an elite option. He's still going to get those touches. They used him in the passing game, which we were really hoping and waiting on seeing this past week. And Diontae Johnson, coming off the injury against Philadelphia, is a fringe wide receiver too. So if you're in a third wide receiver spot, I love having Diontae in there because he presents that upside. But I have to still stick with Mixon here. Even against Baltimore, he should see a lot of work. He's seen those attempts going his way, or those targets going his way from Joe Burrow, and he just might be heating up. Baltimore has not stopped everyone from scoring, even though it's a fairly stout defense. They haven't stopped their opposing offenses from scoring a decent amount of points. So I would go Joe Mixon. Thank you guys. Thank you, Big Dog, for coming in. Hit that subscribe button. We've got breaking news coming in right now. Just hold on here, guys. Julio Jones is inactive today, so that will definitely bump up a guy like Calvin Ridley, Olamide Zaccheaus. It bumps up Hayden Hurst. It bumps up Todd Gurley. It bumps up everyone. Russell Gage. But it downgrades Matt Ryan in that offense. It's going to be a tougher break for Matt Ryan, but we should see some performances. I think Zaccheaus was one of the highest owned players on DraftKings this week. He was only 3,000, and now that number is going to keep going up. So make sure you check your rosters, get Julio Jones out of there, check your DraftKings lineups, get Julio out of there, and we will be all set to go. So big news. I mean, I didn't really expect him to play, honestly, but there's always a chance that he plays. And then if he plays, you got to start him, and then he just busts your lineup because he doesn't run any routes, and he's just a pylon out there, basically. Tyler Smith, what up, buddy? Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I haven't seen your name before, so man, I shout you guys out. I know you're talking. I'm not here getting so many questions that I need to go rapid fire. I'm gonna go through my analysis and go through my process and figure it out here. He's got a dilemma. Would you start Michael Thomas over Kenyan Drake? So he's got Justin Jackson though. So 100% in this scenario, let me see. The Chargers play Monday night, yeah. So in that scenario, I would sit Kenyan Drake down on his team, start Michael Thomas, and if it turns out Michael Thomas is a game day inactive, like we just saw from Julio Jones, then you start Justin Jackson in there, and then you have that mix of upside. We haven't seen it from Kenyan Drake. Like if it doesn't happen this week for Kenyan Drake, he's basically chopped liver and off your team, Tyler. So it's like, I understand that you want to start Drake because of the matchup, but if Chase Edmonds is still the higher fantasy producer this week, you're gonna seem silly, seem stupid for starting Drake after he's never had a good fantasy output yet, and then you have Michael Thomas sitting on your bench. So I could see Justin Jackson being a very reliable backup with similar floor and upside to Kenyan Drake. So with that being said, you're not really losing a whole ton starting Justin Jackson over Kenyan Drake in that matchup. So definitely roll with Michael Thomas and then get Justin Jackson as a backup. That's a perfect scenario, Tyler. You've constructed your team really well, so you can so you have a Michael Thomas handcuff in your flex position if it turns out he's inactive again. So Tyler also says he's got Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb this week. So that's a really close one. Those two are the best rookies of the year so far. That's tough. So the only downside is if New York cannot score any fantasy points, and then the matchup against Dallas versus the Giants isn't a shootout, and you won't see 400 attempts from Dak Prescott this week. So technically I've got CeeDee Lamb ahead of Justin Jefferson, but they're honestly back-to-back in my rankings. They're right around that 20 wide receiver mark. So if you believe in the Minnesota-Seattle shootout, then you go Justin Jefferson, sorry. And then otherwise, the talent, obviously, we prefer CeeDee Lamb as a talent. He was my number one wide receiver coming out, and he's been producing fantasy points as well, so you can stick with the hot hand with CeeDee Lamb. So really tough choice, Tyler. Thank you for coming in. Hit that subscribe button. I haven't seen your name yet, so we appreciate you. Hopefully I helped you out. If you have more questions, you could DM us on snap_fantasy or my personal Twitter at Lando_FF. You've got a super solid team. It sounds like a championship roster to me, man, but that's why you got to keep tuning in every single Sunday. We could help you make these tough start sit decisions. If you have such a rock solid team, a depth team, I mean, hopefully we can help you out as best we can getting the proper and the right start sit questions. And it depends on your upside. It depends on if you're behind in the matchup or in front. All that stuff matters when you're making these start-sit decisions. And with these COVID rules, man, you need depth on your team as well. So, Kevin Mason, what's up? He's in a PPR league. Thanks for coming in. I haven't seen your name either, Kev. So, he's got Kamara at 1. Back should go Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon in the other spot. So, you have basically the number one running back in football right now. And then you have Taylor, who I think is right now, as active running backs go, he's one of the best talents on the field. But Joe Mixon is no slouch either. So Joe Mixon is definitely in a tougher matchup. So I would go Jonathan Taylor at running back. He's right around our running back 9 this week, and Joe Mixon's closer to the 12, 11 spots. So they're very close in this matchup, but I think Jonathan Taylor finally, I want to see him take these more carries, the third down carries away from Nyheim Hines. Man, we saw Wilkins in the game last week. That's a tough. Hopefully, if Jonathan Taylor doesn't produce this week, man, I don't know. I'm not sure what the Colts are doing. It's nothing to do with talent. It's nothing to do with what he's doing on the field. It just seems that coaching scheme. He was easily a top 5 running back projected guy once we saw Marlon Mack go down, but we haven't seen that kind of workload and that efficiency from him lately. So I would still go Jonathan Taylor, stick with the talent, stick with what we know, and hopefully he gets that work, because Jonathan Taylor is an amazing talent in the NFL, and I want to see him get 20, 25 touches in the game, including receptions. So tough choice. You have 2 really good options, but go Taylor over Mixon, but Mixon, man, sitting down Mixon seems ridiculous. You've got a great team. Thanks, Kicks. Thanks for coming by. I thank you for subscribing, man. It means so much to us. We're trying to hit that 400 subscriber goal today. I know we can do it. Every live stream we get 25 subs, and it's all because of the grind that we have for Mackenzie and Scott. Going on trying to get you guys to come in, and we appreciate you. It honestly means a ton to us if you make that subscribe. If you hit that notification bell to know every time we post a video. We've got a really good schedule this week. I post a DFS video every week. We do a waiver wire video, and we're gonna do a drop it like it's hot, a can you drop segment every week as well, because you guys like that a lot. So we got a great schedule going for you guys. So. Taylor M. Already starting Chark and Robinson. Awesome, great wide receiver. Should I go all in on Jackson, start Minshew, or pivot to Jimmy G? Good question. I don't mind a stack. Mac and I did a video this year on if stacking is really worth it, and we saw that stacking in redraft leagues, and we saw stacking your quarterback with the number 1 receiver hasn't shown the upside. Hasn't shown to work in redraft leagues and regular seasonal leagues throughout the whole season. What we've seen so far this year in DraftKings is that the winning lineups is picking the highest scoring games, and it's stacking the quarterback with 2 players and then running it back with 1. So with that being said, I'm not really concerned with going all in on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Houston's defense is not great, and I think Minshew is set for a good bounce back game. They've had a really tough schedule, and Houston defense is going to look easy compared to what they've faced lately. So I would start with Minshew, and then you have that stack. So when Chark has a big game and has 1 or 2 touchdowns, you've got the quarterback going along with it. We've got Minshew this week as a fringe quarterback 1, and Jimmy Garoppolo as a fringe, like a back end quarterback 2. So even if you didn't have Chark, I would still go Gardner Minshew. So thank you, Taylor, for the question. I'm not worried about going all in on that matchup. You got to go all in and make sure you win. Give yourself the best chance to win. I wouldn't go Garoppolo just because you had a Jags receiver. If Chark has a bad game and Minshew has a bad game, I mean, that's not, the process is there, the matchup is there. I think you got to go with the better fantasy upside, and that's got to be Minshew. Garoppolo is all right too, but yo. Holy, I've got a question off of Twitter here. We have DJ Moore, we have Justin Jefferson, we have Robert Woods, and Michael Thomas. Holy man, that's a lot of really. I think in that matchup you have all these elite wide receivers. I think you can sit down Michael Thomas in case he's an inactive. You don't, with those matchups, you don't have a pivot off of Thomas if he sits down and doesn't play. Michael Thomas didn't practice most of the week and was limited on Friday, I want to say. So I hope he plays. I hope he's 100%, but I hope he's not just a guy out there just taking away coverage off of players. So that's going to be, I think you got to go with the stud. You have so many stud wide receivers. You need that safe floor and upside. We know all those players are going to play. So yeah, I'd probably sit down Michael Thomas, unfortunately. Woods is my start there between Robert Woods and Justin Jefferson. They're close, but I would start Robert Woods, I think. Yep, I would start Robert Woods, but they're pretty close. Jefferson's a wide receiver 2, and Woods is a 1. So, Kevin Mason, I answered that question. Eric, I did trade for DJ Moore. Yeah. Jamal Jones, one more question. No problem, man. Ask as many questions as you want. Sorry if I missed your question. I'll go back up to make sure. He has Derrick Henry and Jonnu Smith, but also Drake and Gesicki on my bench. Would you chance it? That's really tough. Because it's between the floor of Kenyan Drake and Derrick Henry. And those, oh man. I think you can, oh geez. I think that game plays. I think there's a fairly high chance that game plays. I have a gut feeling it's going to play. So I would stick with the studs and Henry and Jonnu. But between Gesicki and Jonnu, I know Gesicki's been disappointing lately, but the tight end position as a whole is disappointing. It's hard to predict. It's very touchdown dependent. What's that? Yeah. As of right now, there's no new cases between the Titans and the Bills since Wednesday, so that's encouraging for that game to happen. I know the outbreak was massive for the Tennessee Titans. We don't know which players they're actually would tested positive, which is odd because we know every player. We know Corey Davis was positive, but anything else, I guess we hopefully would have known if A.J. Brown or Derrick Henry or Jonnu Smith was tested positive. It might have been just tertiary players, backup corners, that kind of thing. But so I think you could start Gesicki, but Jamal, in that league, I think you should try to go to the commish. You have pretty much an hour to get it done. Start Henry and Jonnu on your team and put Drake and Gesicki as backups. And if that game doesn't happen and you have no pivots, you get the points from Drake and Gesicki. Because it'd be no fault of your own for that team, for that player to miss the game. And if the game was happening on Sunday, you could pivot and go off your bench and start Drake and Gesicki. But because it's happening on Tuesday, you have no chance. So it's not your fault. You expect the game to happen. You've been told the game is scheduled to happen. So if there's a positive test again tomorrow, then the game's done, and then you have zeros. So So that's the risk you got to take. If that risk happens, obviously starting Drake and Gesicki won't give you zeros, but Henry and Jonnu Smith are the better starts. So that's tough, man. I can't tell the future. If that game happens, you got to go with Henry and Jonnu. So that's what I would do. They're fairly the difference between Jonnu Smith and Gesicki is smaller than the difference between Henry and Drake. So just to be a little bit safe, you can just start Gesicki and just hopefully the talent actually gets targets and he gets a touchdown, because he does get targeted in that end zone. I remember I watched 2 plays where Gesicki just didn't come down with the ball in the end zone. So Brad Kraft, thanks for coming by, Brad. Hit that subscribe button. I'll give you my best analysis I can to help you win your matchup. I'm not sure if it came off of Twitter, Instagram, if you just found us on YouTube, but either way, we appreciate you, and we're trying to get to that 400 goal subscription mark. So Justin Herbert over Matt Ryan with Julio out. I think that's a really good play. I think you got it right. Matt Ryan without Julio is not the same player, and I think what we've seen from Justin Herbert this year is a really good player, even against Carolina. Oh man. So before Julio's out, I think Matt Ryan is around that quarterback 7 or 8, and then Herbert's around that quarterback 15 or so. So it will bring them closer together. Matt Ryan might drop out of the top 12, maybe quarterback 12 or 13 without Julio, and that still leaves Justin Herbert as probably a quarterback 15 to 18, but he's got a ton of upside because he has the rushing ability, the deep ball. New Orleans defense is clearly a lot better than Carolina's defense, so in that aspect, you would go with the Carolina. Hopefully, it's a shootout game, even without Julio Jones. You hope that Hurst can get involved, and I mean Julio didn't score touchdowns as it was, so you're not worried about that. Hopefully, we need to see Calvin Ridley step up as the wide receiver 1. If he does not step up again, the narrative is going to start about Calvin if he could be the locked and loaded 1 without Julio on the field, because that's what we want him to be. That's what we thought he was scoring all those fantasy points, but Julio was there taking number 1 coverage away from him, and he was getting forgotten about. So technically our rankings would have Matt Ryan ahead, but I still think Justin Herbert has that upside of scoring you 25, 28 points. But Matt Ryan's ceiling goes down without Julio, and he's going to be, you're kind of hoping he gets that 20 to 23 point mark from Matt Ryan, passing touchdowns to Ridley and Hurst and Gage and company. So that's kind of what I would do. My gut reaction said Justin Herbert, but the rankings probably bring them a little bit closer still with Matt Ryan a little bit ahead, because he still provides that safe floor, where Herbert, his floor has got to be lower against New Orleans. So he's still a rookie. Hopefully Herbert's the real deal. I've got him in Dynasty. I got him in a couple spots. So hopefully Herbert's the real deal, and we'll see it against New Orleans. So great question though, Brad. Your mind's right. He also has Keenan Allen. Sorry, I just saw that. You've had that written down for a while. I love the stack, but it's still so I answered this earlier where he had Minshew and Chark. We had Minshew ahead no matter what, but the stack doesn't really matter in that scenario. I would still play the best player there. And again, the ceiling is higher for Herbert. The floor is higher for Matt Ryan. So hopefully you liked my analysis, Brad. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. Splash Triplet, I've seen you come in before. He's wondering if he wants to start Crowder over DJ Moore. And I cannot. I know that DJ Moore has been disappointing. I understand, but the New York Jets are a dumpster fire of a team. The volume's been there. He's seen similar targets to Robbie Anderson. It's projected to be a shootout in Atlanta. It might not be as good without Julio Jones, but it still could be a shootout. I would start DJ Moore. Jameson Crowder is a fringe wide receiver 3 to me, even against Arizona. DJ Moore is still in a top 24 wide receiver. So you got to go You got to go, DJ Moore, splash triplet. I appreciate you. I've seen you come in before. I know you're a subscriber, but hit that like button. We've got 17 likes, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you coming in here, hanging out. Check out these questions. Another Titans coach tested positive. Did that just come in? Can I get that vetted from you guys right now? Check Twitter and see, because if that's the case, man, then that game's going to be canceled, because we saw a Patriots coach test positive and then the game was canceled. So that's going to be insane if that happens. We got it. Then I got to But yeah, so they weren't together. They were not together. Their facility has been closed. So that coach hasn't seen players. They've just been on Zoom calls and that kind of stuff. So I don't think that's going to close the game. But because that coach in the Patriots has been interacting with the players, they had to get all the tests back. They had to go through the contact to find out who that coach is contacted. But it seems as though that game is still happening. Kicks my game. Hopefully it still does. But again, that gives it obviously a higher risk that it doesn't happen. So, Ruiz, yeah, man, it's been tough, man. It's been tough in AJ Green. We talked about AJ Green a lot last week. You can't start him anymore. There's no question you can't start him. I know you came by last week when we probably told you to start him, but should you start Ruggs or Cole Beasley in the flex? So I think you got to stay away from the Buffalo game. Henry Ruggs still presents a ton of upside. I know the Kansas City defense does not provide touchdowns to deep wide receivers, but of all players, Henry Ruggs can beat anyone. He's got the speed to beat anyone. Speed can't be defended, and I think Henry Ruggs presents a ton of upside, where Cole Beasley does give you a floor if he does play. If that game does happen, he presents more targets than Henry Ruggs does. But I think you got to go Henry Ruggs for the upside. The game's at 1 p.m. We got to go Ruggs. Stick with the rookie. Hopefully he gets some targets. When he's been healthy, he has seen targets because John Gruden wants to get him involved. We just haven't seen him healthy. He had a really big first half of the game, and then he had to go out with an injury. So Brian Edwards is not playing. He's declared out. So I think there's a lot of good targets for Henry Ruggs, and we could see him kind of blast off. I'm in DraftKings lineups where I've got all these high risk players. I've got Hollywood Brown, Tyreek Hill, and Henry Ruggs. So I'm going full tournament play, full upside play, and hopefully it works out for me. So I'm shooting for Henry Ruggs, and I hope it works out for you, man. But Cole Beasley is a safer play if the game happens. So what is up? We got Graham Taylor from Twitter. Hopefully you're in, Graham, to see this question answered for you. He's got Chris Carson, Jonathan Taylor, and Miles Sanders. So I think you got to start Chris Carson. Chris Carson is a good play. I think against the Minnesota defense, he's a locked and loaded play. So between those two, it's the tough matchups versus for Jonathan Taylor and Miles Sanders. Jonathan Taylor will be my play this week. I have him as right around between number 9 and 10 for running back starts, where Miles Sanders is close to that 13 to 15 running back point against Pittsburgh. It's a much tougher matchup than Jonathan Taylor. So sit down, Miles Sanders. A lot of sharp fantasy players have Miles Sanders as his over-under as the under for yards on the game. For Miles Sanders to have a big game, you have to see him get those receptions. And for that to happen, I think it's got to be the right game script, and I think Pittsburgh could just destroy the Eagles in this matchup. So Tony coming in, he's worried about Slay. We've got another Diontae Johnson question. Great thumbnail. We've got a ton of Diontae Johnson questions in here. Thanks for coming by, Tony. Thanks for coming in. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. I appreciate you coming. I haven't seen your name yet. And I don't blame you. I would be worried about Slay as well. But I still feel confident starting Diontae Johnson. but you have a player in Marquise Hollywood-Brown that presents a ton of upside as well. I have a really good feeling about Marquise Brown this week. I think he bounces back after really not performing that well. They play Cincinnati. Lamar has been looking his way late or deep. He's the number one option for there. Lamar just missed him. With confidence, start Marquise Brown in this matchup. I've got him as my wide receiver, 19 to 20 this week. And Diontae Johnson, although I love Diontae and his talent, I have him closer to that 29 mark. So he's about eight or nine spots behind Marquise Hollywood-Brown. I still think the upside is matched to Marquise. We know Diontae can score 2 touchdowns in this matchup. And Slay, although he's one of the best cover corners in the league, he could start looking at Juju Smith-Schuster. They can move Juju and Diontae between inside and out because Slay doesn't go towards the inside of the field. He'll guard that outside wide receiver. And if that is Diontae, yeah, he'll get him. And then Big Ben is smart enough to know he can pivot to Ebron or Juju. But if they move these guys around, I don't think Diontae sees Slay the whole game. But with that being said, I still have Marquise Brown ranked higher, and so you would start Marquise in the higher upside play. Hopefully you liked my analysis. Hopefully you can subscribe to the channel and get notifications every time we post a video. We do this every single Sunday to help you try to win your matchup, Tony. So thanks for coming by, man. I don't know if it came off of Twitter, Instagram, Sleeper, but either way, we appreciate you coming in. So. Michael Costanzo, should I drop Matt Ryan? QB's on waivers or Minshew, Bridgewater? So, I mean, those are, yeah. When you're dropping a guy like Matt Ryan, like if you had Minshew already there, no, I would keep Matt Ryan. There's a lot of, so knowing how many quarterbacks you have on waivers, I would just roll with Matt Ryan this week. Hopefully it's a great matchup this week against Carolina. Although I said he's my maybe number 14, 15 quarterback. With Julio back, he's a top 10 guy, no question. Where guys like Minshew, Bridgewater, Burrow, Tannehill, Herbert, there are a lot of more streamer candidates, and maybe Matt Ryan will get to there without Julio. But I would keep Matt Ryan on our team, Costanzo. I wouldn't go and pivot. And if you drop Matt Ryan and he continues to have a big year, you're gonna regret that. So, Eric picked up Herbert because they play the Jets next week. That's a good call. It's good to look for next week. If you've got a locked and loaded defense on your team, stick with that. But take a look to see if the LA Chargers are on your waiver wire. If you have a dead spot on your bench and you could start the Chargers, they've got a really good matchup in the following 3 weeks. But they play New Orleans this week, so you do not want to start them this upcoming week. There we go. We are all caught up on questions. Charter schedule is light. Oh yeah, I just said that. So I know, Ms. Costanzo. Thanks, man. I also know that. I did not see your comment there, but I love that pick. You guys are sharp. Our listeners are some of the sharpest there are. I'm gonna have a cup of coffee. My mouth is dry, so. Yeah, I just got a word from my co-host producer today that Lamar is active. We expected him to be active, but he did miss some time with a knee injury against Cincinnati. I think he's in a great spot. Yeah, thanks. So I'm getting some Twitter questions in from Mackenzie, and we will do a little rapid fire segment if they're not too hard, but they might be. I'm good with anything. We've got 13 of you watching. Thanks for sticking around, guys. We appreciate all of you for coming in. I'm just seeing Cole Beasley, Russell Gage, or Jarvis Landry. I would go. Man, but it's between Russell Gage and Landry. I would probably go. Oh man, I would go Landry. Let's stick with Landry this week. Yeah, because he throws touchdowns. He's got that touchdown upside. He's got a better arm than Baker. Let's be serious. Yeah, yeah. I would go Connor over McKinnon this week. Um, so between they're close, so they're back to back in our ranks. I think McKinnon is a decent starter, but I do believe that I do believe it's reading into the matchup a little bit too much. Jerick McKinnon is a fringe running back one this week, but I do think Mostert's going to be involved. Connor, I know Philadelphia has a stout run defense, and that's the best part of their game. But Connor could be involved in the pass game. It's going to be a positive game script for the Pittsburgh offense in general. And Mostert coming back is going to take carries away from Jerick McKinnon. We know Jeff Wilson will also take carries away from Jerick McKinnon. Now it's going to be a three-headed monster in San Francisco. It's like Miami is one of the most easy defenses to go up against, and one of those guys might have a good game, but now it's more of a risk. I would say it's a higher risk in Jerick McKinnon. You have to get him to get that touchdown. Although he's been looking great as of late, you have a great option in James Conner. If you had a way worse option, fringe, like if I go down my rankings here and see if you had even a Joshua Kelly or Justin Jackson, then you could go with Jerick because he's looked so good. But as of right now, Jerick McKinnon versus James Conner is a much better matchup. If you had even like a Mark Ingram, I would go Jerick McKinnon. If you had a Myles Gaskin, I would go Jerick McKinnon. That same matchup. So, Jerick still. He's looked great, and that's if you've watched any of those games in San Francisco, he's looked great. So that's why I don't blame you for going with him. But he's a fringe. He's a running back 2 this week for me, with Mostert being back in the mix. Tony Bears, what is going on? Thanks for coming in. We needed a question off of YouTube. So he's in a PPR flex position. He's got Slayton, worth the risk, or go with Sanders. This is a really tough question. Slayton is one of the most popular plays on DraftKings. He's going to be super highly owned. And Sanders is a guy that everyone is fading because he's in a really tough matchup against Pittsburgh. I do believe that Miles Sanders still presents a safe floor against Pittsburgh. He's got to get involved out of the passing game. Slayton, although we love the talent, he's right around that wide receiver 20, 21 to 24. So he's right around that fringe. Everyone in the industry is thinking that this Dallas-New York game is going to be an absolute shootout, and Darius Slayton is going to be the recipient of a big game from Daniel Jones. But it also could be Golden Tate. We're also thinking Evan Ingram's going to have a decent game. So for the safer floor, I would go Miles Sanders. If New York can't score against Dallas, they can't score against anyone. Slayton is an amazing talent. I think he's a great player. He does present more upside because of the matchup. So if you're behind in the matchup, Tony, maybe go with Darius Slayton. And hopefully he gets 2 touchdowns. That's kind of what you're hoping for. 2 touchdowns and 85 yards but you know what? If he gets 2, he's probably going to like 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's the upside for Darius Slayton. We've seen that before from him. Where Miles Sanders, he needs to get about 100 all-purpose yards. Would be a really good game for Miles Sanders. Like, a really, really good game for Miles Sanders is 100 all-purpose. I don't think he does not get 100 on the ground. There's no chance he gets 100 on the ground against the Pittsburgh defense. So you're hoping he gets receiving yards. So the upside, I also don't think he scores 2 touchdowns against Pittsburgh. So Slayton has that potential. Miles Sanders does not, but Miles Sanders has a much safer floor because we could see Darius Slayton have kind of a dud game. 4 receptions for 50 yards from Slayton, and then you're just like, well, why did I start a New York Giant? Like, that hasn't paid off yet this year, so why would it start? So that's kind of what you're looking at, Tony. Hopefully that helped you out, and hopefully you have a good idea of your 2 options. So coming off of Twitter, we've got Beasley, Hilton, or Ayuk. So it's going to be between Hilton and Ayuk for me. So far, Hilton is a terrible player so far, and if he doesn't do anything this week, he's going to maybe be in our Can You Drop T.Y. Hilton in fantasy football segment next week. They're somewhat close. They play Cleveland, so I mean T.Y. Hilton still has air yards in the league. He's getting targets. Technically, I guess I would play T.Y. Hilton. He is higher in the rankings, but Ayuk is in a much better matchup against Miami. However, Deebo Samuel is going to get back in the mix. We know Deebo has a very good relationship with Jimmy Garoppolo, and if Deebo is back to 100% health, Ayuk will go down and be relegated to a number 2 option in a pass or in a run-heavy offense. So it feels gross to roll with T.Y. Hilton one more time, but we have Shenault as well. Shenault has a hamstring injury, so it's actually it's going to be between T.Y. Hilton and Shenault. It's still probably it's closer, but it's still T.Y. Hilton. Because of that hamstring for Shenault, he gets downgraded in my rankings a little bit. He could be limited. I think it's going to be a DJ Chark game. Even Keelan Cole might even be like a fringe starter in like a deep league. So thanks for the question. Looks like it probably came off of Twitter or Sleeper, but hopefully you guys came in. Make sure to drop that like button if you came and watched that video. We got more questions coming in. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I'm going to get to every question. I'm going to give you full analysis on why I'm starting these players. And if you haven't already, please hit that like button. We have 19 likes and 20 people watching right now. So we're trying to get to that 400 subscriber goal, and we're here grinding all the time. Thank you so Basm says it's a PPR league. Good to know. That's very good to know. DJ Moore, Joshua Kelly, Devonta Freeman, Le'Veon Bell. Which 2 would I prefer in this matchup? It's good you've got depth on your bench, man, because this year of all years, you're going to need guys to pivot off of. You're going to have players that you can start in a spot start. And for me, it's going to be between kind of DJ Moore and Joshua Kelly. I would probably start those guys. In a matchup, so DJ Moore is higher than Kelly in my rankings. And between that, so Le'Veon Bell and Joshua Kelly is going to be close. Le'Veon Bell coming back should see some work, but so I'm going to start your 2 first guys you mentioned. I'm going to start DJ Moore and Joshua Kelly. Those are the 2 I would prefer. I want to see Joshua Kelly be the lead back in that offense. What we've seen from Joshua Kelly, he's getting those high value touches, and even with Austin Eckler in the mix, he got those red zone, end zone looks. So I don't expect Justin Jackson to steal that away from Joshua Kelly. So I think he gets maybe a 60-40 split between Kelly or between Jackson. I said maybe a 50-50 split, but I'm leaning more towards that 60-40 split because we saw him being that explosive rookie. Justin Jackson, although he did pretty good last year in limited work, has been banged up this year. I think they stick with the hot hand in a lot of cases, and I think that's going to be Joshua Kelly. Le'Veon Bell coming off an injury. He didn't look great before the injury. He hasn't looked great after. That New York Jets offense is just so bad, and I think Arizona's defense is going to look good because they've got Flacco involved. Maybe that's a better thing. Maybe that's an upgrade to Sam Darnold. We're not sure yet. So those are the 2 guys I would start. I do believe in the talent of DJ Moore, and he's seen the targets. He just hasn't seen the end zone yet. Hopefully, he is not the Julio Jones type to never get in the end zone. I think he's an elite talent at the wide receiver position. I think this is the week he comes back and outperforms Robbie Anderson in fantasy football. Even if he doesn't, I still think he presents a safe floor in that likely shootout game against Atlanta. So thanks for the question. I think I know you already subscribed to the channel, but hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got 21 likes. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you so much. So I've got a question off of Twitter. Just came in here. Lebronto. He's got DJ Chark and Michael Thomas. So in this scenario, I'm going to go with a DJ Chark because you have a high-end wide receiver, and there's a chance that Michael Thomas is a game day inactive. There's a chance he does not play this week. So because of that risk, you got to go with DJ Chark, because if you don't have a pivot off of that on Monday night, then you basically get a 0. If you had a lower end option, if you had a Cole Beasley, a Jameson Crowder, that kind of type, I'm going to take a risk on Michael Thomas because he presents that wide receiver 1 upside that we saw last year from him. But in that option, you have a high-end top 10 wide receiver already locked in. Stick with it, and then if you see Michael Thomas play and perform, then you got a locked and loaded starter every single week, and you're rocking and rolling. So yeah, start DJ Chark in a better matchup, or in a good matchup. So we got Harris YT. What is going on, man? Thanks for coming by. We appreciate you. I got to pick 2 here. Tyler Lockett, Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Jameson Crowder, Will Fuller, Robbie Anderson, standard league. Holy man, this guy has a deep bench. You've got a rock solid team. I think I got to go with some wide receivers here. As much as I like Miles Sanders as a talent, I'm probably going to sit him down this week because of the poor matchup. And probably because you have such elite options. It's in a standard league, so that does change things a little bit because you're not looking at necessarily targets. But a guy like Adam Thielen and Tyler Lockett are top 5 options for me this week. Lockett, although he sees a tons of targets and he's a great PPR guy, still sees yards. And you have a great opportunity for a massive shootout this week. Adam Thielen is still the number 1 in that offense until proven otherwise by, well, I guess technically maybe it's been proven, but I want to see more consistency out of Justin Jefferson going forward. Adam Thielen's still an elite talent, and this week against Seattle should be a great matchup. I would go with both of those guys, Lockett and Thielen. You've got really good options. I mean, Will Fuller is still really good. He's a friend. He's definitely a top 15 wide receiver. Robbie Anderson, I think you said you have as well. He's a top 17 wide receiver. You have some elite guys. What you got to do, Harris, is flip some of those really good wide receivers for like an elite running back. Get a Zeke Elliott. If you can get a Kamara, maybe you can do that. Maybe you can buy low on Jonathan Taylor on some of these guys. If you're in a keeper league, maybe you flip Justin Jefferson for like a really good talent like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Something like that is something what you should do because you have a ton of really good wide receivers in a standard league. You want a locked and loaded running back like a Derrick Henry type. If you can get him on your team, or Dalvin Cook, or Josh Jacobs, or Kareem Hunt, you can get some of these guys for these elite wide receivers because you have all the good ones on your team, man. So thank you for the question. You're going to have a tough start sit every single week if you keep those guys in your team. So, yeah, thanks for the question, Harris YT. Subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate you coming in. And we're here every single week grinding to help you make the best start sit decisions you can. And I'm going to give you my best analysis on why I make that process of starting these guys. I'm going to talk it through with you. I'm not just giving you a locked and loaded DJ Moore, Joshua Kelly. Next question. I'm not doing that, guys. I'm going to go through every single one and figure it out. Are we starting Diontae Johnson? Noah, I am starting Diontae Johnson, even though he's talked to be shadowed by Darius Slay, but he is a wide receiver 3 for me this week, but he still presents the upside of a wide receiver 2-1. So I'm starting Diontae this week, but depends on your other options. So Noah, if you have other options, I think I see you down here. I see you in the comments. I'll get to them in a second, man. So thanks for coming by. Logan, good morning, my friend. He's here weekly for advice. Thank you so much for coming in. I love you guys. You guys come in every single week. I see the same names, and we're just here hanging out, having a good time, talking through your start sit questions. It should be a lot of fun. So Logan, Crowder and Fuller, David Johnson, Kenyan Drake, and Kelly. I need 1 for wide receiver 2 and 1 for the flex. So I'm going to start Will Fuller this week against Jacksonville. I think that's a great matchup. So I'm not going to start Jameson Crowder, although he's better in a PPR league. Between David Johnson and Joshua Kelly and Kenyan Drake. Those are probably going to be your flex positions. I think David Johnson, by necessity, is because it's a good matchup against Jacksonville, is probably a start. I don't feel great about it, to be honest with you. Kenyan Drake is also in a good matchup, but he's probably about 5 or 6 slots below him. And then Joshua Kelly, although I think he still gets about 60% of the work, he's still a fringe. He's a back end running back 2 for me this week until we see otherwise, because he's in a tougher matchup against New Orleans. So that's who I would go with. Start Fuller, and then let me just answer a quick question between Crowder. It's going to be David Johnson. Start David Johnson, your flex, man. Do it with confidence. I don't love it. I've never been a David Johnson fan, but in a good matchup, he's actually looked pretty good this year. So I believe in the narrative that Houston will win this game and win, or at least give it a really good shot, because the narrative of the players getting rid of Bill O'Brien, they're going to rally around their team. Hopefully it's a shootout game, like a big 35 to 31 point game with Houston on top. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, projecting. I'm stacking some of those players. I'm playing a lot of DJ Chark, and we're going to go here. JP, thanks for coming by, JP. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button. You guys are awesome. I have 23 likes. We appreciate you guys so much. Dearness Johnson, Gus Edwards, or someone off waivers like Tony Pollard. It's a half PPR league, man. You must be in a deep league. That is a tough decision. So Gus Edwards has actually seen like 9 rush attempts. He's a guy that you're hoping for Gus Edwards in the late part of the game to get that grind out action. If Baltimore just blows out Cincinnati, Gus Edwards is going to see a lot more looks. Tony Pollard, I don't know if you need to pick him up. Dearness Johnson, it was a hot waiver ad. I'm not relying on Dearness Johnson anywhere this week. But between Gus Edwards and Dearness Johnson, man, that is a rough one. I guess I would go Dearness Johnson. You picked him up off waivers. Hopefully he gets a big workload. I don't know. I don't see that coming. We haven't seen it yet. But you'll be rocking Dearness with like 30% of the fantasy football world right now. Like a lot of people are relying on Dearness Johnson. Tony Pollard, you're pretty much hoping that Zeke Elliott gets tired and Pollard comes in for passing down work. It should be a higher scoring game against New York, but you kind of have to get lucky with Tony Pollard coming in, because we know that Zeke Elliott's going to take 80% of the work, and that 20% is going to Pollard. Hopefully he takes one in from like the 22-yard line and gets in, or takes a screenplay, and that's what you're hoping for from Tony Pollard. I guess I would go Dearness Johnson, man. You picked him up off waivers. I guess start him. That's gross, man. I'll be paying attention to that one on today to see how that works out for you. So, John Fenton, love the stream. Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it. I know you probably already liked the video. We've got 24 likes, guys. You guys are awesome. My screen is frozen. You guys seen that too? How do I? Okay. All right. Sweet. Hollywood or Chenault? Sorry, John, if you haven't, if I was frozen already, I would start Hollywood Brown over Laviska Chenault, John. I'm still frozen on my screen, but hopefully it's not. Starting with confidence, Chenault's been banged up with a hamstring injury, and hamstring injuries have been a tough issue this year. So I think even if Chenault plays, he could be limited this week. So Noah, is Diontae Johnson a sit or start? He is a start or a sit, depending on your matchup, man. Depending on your stuff. I don't want to confuse you. This is a start-sit segment where we go over every player, give me some options, and I'll tell you to start him or sit him. All right, man? So don't want to confuse you here. Splash triplet, Crowder, Mixon, Jonnu for Derrick Henry, a good trade. Mac, what do you think? Crowder, Mixon, and Jonnu for Derrick Henry. Yeah. I would stick with your lineup. I would stick with Mixon and Jonnu, man. I am live, right? I'm good to go. I'm not frozen because it's definitely frozen on my end. Blue Crew. PPR Flex. John Brown, T. Higgins, Joshua Kelly, or Latavius Murray. I'm already starting Kamara. So I would not start Latavius, but it's good to have him on your team in case, because we know if Kamara goes down, Latavius Murray is he's a top 12 running back in this league. So stay away from John Brown because of that Tennessee Buffalo game. So sit down John Brown. So between T. Higgins, Joshua Kelly, Latavius Murray, I am going Joshua Kelly with that matchup. T. Higgins is great. He's a great rookie, but I'm not going to start him with confidence yet, especially in a tough matchup versus Baltimore. So yeah. So great question, Blue Crew. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. We have 27 likes, guys. You guys are killing it. Calphone 916. He's got Joshua Kelly or Slayton. That's a great question. That's going to be definitely closer. I do believe that Kelly presents a pretty good floor. My estimate is about 60% of the snap share. Slayton is a very popular guy for DFS this week. So we have Slayton around between running back 24 and 29 of the week. But like I said, he presents a ton of upside. He could have 2 touchdowns and 125 yards this week. So Darius Slayton is a guy that could have upside, but his floor is going to be lower than Joshua Kelly's. Slayton could end up with 4 targets and 60 yards, and that's his floor probably, which is decent. Joshua Kelly, though, he's been getting those high value touches around the goal line. We've got him as around running back 26 to 30 this week. So technically, I would start Darius Slayton, but Joshua Kelly could get, I would say, he's got 85 yards and a touchdown is kind of what you're hoping out of Joshua Kelly. So it's in a tougher matchup against New Orleans, but I would start Slayton over Kelly. I believe personally that Kelly has a safer floor. So between Diontae Johnson and Justin Jefferson, I would go Justin Jefferson in a better matchup this week. Can we trust Titans players? And the answer is kind of. Costanzo, I think it's about a 75% chance that the game happens. If you have a better matchup, if you have a pretty equal player in your lineup, I would just start the other guy. Like if you have Deebo Samuel over AJ Brown, maybe just start Deebo Samuel, and you have at least you have a guy that gives you points this week, or a Darius Slayton or Joshua Kelly over AJ Brown. Just start these guys, even though AJ Brown has a ton of upside. He's been banged up, kind of thing. If you have like obviously Mark Andrews, start him over Jonnu Smith. The tight end position, if you have a Gesicki over Jonnu Smith, maybe just start Gesicki to make sure you get those points for your matchup. Tyler, what up, homie? I know you've come by before. I've seen your name before. Scenario 1. He's got Ertz versus Pittsburgh or Hollywood versus Cincinnati. I would go with Hollywood Brown. Ertz has not been trusted. Scenario 2. He's got Mike Davis versus Atlanta or Miles Sanders versus Pittsburgh. I would go Mike Davis versus Atlanta in that scenario. Crazy world we live in right now that we would start Mike Davis over Miles Sanders. But that's what we have. That's the cards we're dealt, man. So Hurt Locker, what is up, man? Thanks for coming in. I've seen your name before, but if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on the video. I'm here to talk you through all the start-sit questions you have. He's got McKinnon, Kirk, Pascal, Moss. Tight ends, he's got Schultz or Henry. So I would probably, for your flex spot, I would probably start McKinnon. I would start McKinnon. I talked about him earlier, and he will get limited work compared to what he had last week because Raheem Mostert is back. But McKinnon looked great in a flex position. I think he's still has a really safe floor against Miami. Kirk, although we got in the end zone last week, Kirk hasn't seen reliable targets, and he's like a fringe wide receiver floor for us this week. Even though it's a great matchup against the Jets, you're still hoping that Kirk gets in the end zone, where Jerick McKinnon presents a good floor for you. And then Schultz or Henry, that's a really tough one. So Dalton Schultz or Hunter Henry. Both are good guys. I know you probably drafted Hunter Henry fairly high and added Dalton Schultz. So technically they're back-to-back in our ranks right now. Hunter Henry is up by 1, but maybe I would almost go with Dalton Schultz against the New York Giants. It seems weird to start Schultz over Henry, but that's kind of the world we're living in. It's a much better matchup against the Giants. If Dak Prescott still throws 50 times a game, I mean, Schultz is going to be involved, where Herbert could be in a really tough spot versus New Orleans, and Cameron Jordan there getting up in his grill. Like, we think that Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback, and he's drafted that way, and he's shown he's that, but playing against New Orleans Monday night the pressure might be too much for him, and Hunter Henry could see limited work, where we won't see that from Dalton Schultz. That's for sure. And Dak Prescott, he's going to throw a ton. So thank you guys so much for coming in. Half PPR, Woods or Robbie Anderson. Pro GJML, thanks for coming in, man. Or woman, I don't know. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. So I'm going to go Robert Woods in a matchup. I know he disappointed last week, man, or lady, but I have Robert Woods in a much better spot this week. Robbie Anderson is a very talented player. I think he's very safe this week, but right now we've got, oh man, it's close. They're back to back in our ranks. I just checked, but I do feel more confident in Robert Woods. But Robbie Anderson in a really good matchup against Atlanta is close. So, but again, Robert Woods is in a good matchup against Washington. The only thing about Washington is that we might see their pass rush get to Goff, but I still think Robbie Anderson is the safer play. This could be a week of DJ Moore breaking out. So it's close, man. It's close, very close. But I would go Woods over Robbie Anderson, but only by a hair. Taylor Grant 23, thanks for coming in. He's got a tough tight end question. Tight ends are the most difficult position to project in the NFL, but I'll do my best. Herndon, Eifert, Disley, Knox, or Shaughnessy. Fells, Thomas, Logan Thomas, Ian Thomas, waiver 1 for 1 game. Holy moly. This is basically a waiver question. Who do you pick up? What guys do you... So I'm actually starting Eifert in a tight end premium league, our listener league, in fact. And I don't feel great about it, but I think Logan Thomas has a pretty good game against the Rams. So technically this week I've got Logan Thomas as the number 1 option. I know he's been disappointing lately, but maybe with the backup quarterback in, his floor is safer, but it's hard to say. So I do have a good feeling about Fells, though. Honestly, I'm playing Fells in a few matchups. I think Akins is hurt, and if that Jacksonville game is a shootout, I think Fells gets in the end zone this week. He's back to back with Eifert in our rankings this week, but I have a weird good feeling about Darren Fells. But all these guys are so close, it's really hard to predict. Ian Thomas again in a shootout against Atlanta could easily get in the end zone. He got in the end zone last week in kind of one of those trick plays where the tight ends by themselves in the corner of the end zone. So, it's tight ends are so hard. I would not look about Shaughnessy. Knox is maybe coming back out of injury, so I'm not looking at Knox. Disley has someone in front of him now. I'm not starting Disley. So for me, it's between Logan Thomas, Ian Thomas, Fells, and Eifert. It's a coin flip. Technically, Logan Thomas, if you want my actual answer, Logan Thomas is in our rankings, but my gut feeling is Fells has a good game and gets in the end zone. So Taylor Grant, that's a gross question. That's tough. But Tommy Sasso, what do I think about David Johnson this week? David Johnson, I've got moderate to good feelings about. I have not been on David Johnson all year long, but I do think David Johnson could be a top 13, top 15 running back this week. It's in a good matchup. He's looked good. Houston, if the narrative is correct about Bill O'Brien being kind of the terrible coach and the players revolting, maybe they all rally around and just throw up 50 points against Jacksonville. That's kind of what I'm thinking, and David Johnson will definitely be a recipient of that if that happens. But I've also seen that games after a coach has been fired, teams are like 17-32. So, the narrative street is not necessarily backing up my feeling, but David Johnson is still a pretty good start. I would start him over Miles Sanders this week. So if that helps you out, that's kind of what I would do. Chase Bridges, what is going on, man? I've seen you here before. Thanks for coming by. Hit that like button if you haven't already. We have, what are you doing with Bills and Titans players? I think, so I'm tempering expectations. I'm starting them if they're well and away the top option. So if I have Derrick Henry, for example, and my backup is Mark Ingram, I'm just going to start Derrick Henry. If my backup is Chase Edmonds, I'm going to start Derrick Henry. But if my backup is a little bit closer to Derrick Henry and being like a Jonathan Taylor or David Johnson, the aforementioned, or Mike Davis, I would just start the guy that has the guaranteed matchup this week that won't get me a 0. I think the Tennessee-Buffalo game has a 70% chance of happening. At the quarterback position, we know that Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback every single week, pretty much. For sure, top 6, top 7 guy. But if you have an option, maybe even Teddy Bridgewater, you might want to start over in case that game doesn't happen. Drew Brees, it was a good pivot on Monday night. Even Gardner Minshew might be a better start than Josh Allen. Just maybe sit down a quarterback because you have much more options at the quarterback position, and then you don't get a 0 on your team. What I would say to recommend your commissioner is set a backup player in spot in case that game doesn't happen, because you have 0 chance of pivoting to another player on Tuesday night if that game actually does not happen. That dude, my man, thanks for coming in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. I haven't seen you before, so I'm going to give you my best analysis I can. He's got Mixon versus Baltimore or Connor versus the Eagles. The Eagles have a very good run defense, but I do think, but so does Baltimore. So they're very close in my rankings. But I would start James Conner versus Philadelphia because the chances of it being a blowout versus Philadelphia, I believe, are higher than Cincinnati doing better against the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore could be well ahead in that matchup, and we've seen Gio Bernard get involved in the past game. Although Joe Mixon had a really good week this week, I would probably sit him if you have an option like James Conner. James Conner should be good against Philadelphia. He'll get involved in the past game. When he's healthy, he's been the bell cow, and they've got 2 weeks to prepare. I think they're going to come out and really show Philadelphia what's what. Their defense is elite. It could just be a run James Conner, and he could get 2 touchdowns and 100 all-purpose yards, no question. So thanks for the question to dude, or dadude, whatever you want to be called. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate all the questions. We do this every single week, 2 hours before kickoff. I'm doing a hour and 45-minute stream by myself. I'm here grinding, helping you guys figure out these start-sit questions. So, Cap T Flowers. This might be a question for Mackenzie. Trade Dalton Schultz and Joshua Kelly or Montgomery for Waller. Is that a good trade or not? I don't really... Okay, sounds good. Mac answered that. Yeah, he would keep those players. Yep, that's exactly what I would do. Keep those players. I wouldn't trade Schultz and Joshua Kelly for Waller right now. Francis O'Brien. Pick 2, Gallup versus the Giants. Chark versus Houston, and Zacchaeus versus Cleveland. I would still start Gallup and Chark versus those teams. I know Julio Jones is out this week, but I'm not super confident in Zacchaeus here to perform better than Michael Gallup. I know Michael Gallup really disappointed last week, but I still don't think that's a reason to sit him. Dak Prescott throws more than any other quarterback in the league right now, and it's just a matter of time. There's going to be Gallup games. There's going to be CeeDee Lamb games, and last week was a Amari Cooper game, and Dalton Schultz got involved. So I think Gallup is still a really good wide receiver. He's a wide receiver 1 on half the teams in the NFL, but it just so happens that the Cowboys have Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb involved, and then one of the best running backs in the league in Zeke Elliott to be fed. So I would go with the 2 studs. I think Chark is an auto start, and it's a little bit closer between Gallup and Zacchaeus, but still start Gallup. So thanks for the question, Francis. I haven't seen your name here before, so thanks for coming in. I'm not sure if you came here off of Twitter, Sleeper, YouTube, whatever. Hit that like button. We appreciate you so much, man. So let's see here. JP, I think you answered JP's question. So who has the best chance to give me about 5 to 6 points? Gus Edwards, Chris Thompson, or Dearness Johnson? Thanks for answering before I need to floor about 5 points. So you think it's Dearness Johnson, eh, Mac? Yep. So go with Dearness for the safer floor. Gus Edwards could get late is my second choice. He could get late game work, but he's not involved in the passing game. So you're going to need 50 yards from him, which is tough to do for a guy like Gus Edwards. He looks good sometimes, but you're basically hoping for him to stay involved where it's waiting for the week that J.K. Dobbins is more involved and outperforms Gus Edwards. So go with Dearness with the injury to Chubb for sure. Cap, you're very welcome. Appreciate you. I have Josh Allen and Cam Newton. Should I drop Cam and go to Drew Brees on the waiver wire? That's a great question, Mac. Would you drop Cam Newton and add Drew Brees? That's really tough, Captain Flowers. I mean, I would like, I know it's not generally advisable to keep 3 quarterbacks on your team, but do you have anyone worse to drop? Or maybe you can trade one of these players. I mean, based on Drew Brees being on the bench, maybe no one's going to trade for a quarterback, but maybe you have a Zacchaeus or something like that, or even I would even potentially drop Dearness Johnson or like a New England running back if you have one of those guys instead, and add Drew Brees. But I would play Drew Brees this week if you have a Josh Allen, even though that team might not play. But right now, I mean, I would maybe just roll the dice and just play Josh Allen, because I still think there's a decent chance that game plays. Rad videos. All right, so Mac answered his question on Twitter, but thanks for coming in, man. I'll go through your question more on YouTube to explain it. He's got McKinnon or Ingram or Diontae Johnson for the flex. So Mac, So Mac said Diontae Johnson. I think Diontae Johnson still has a ton of upside in that matchup. So McKinnon's gonna get taken out by Raheem Mostert. Although McKinnon's been looking great this year, and when Mostert's been out, I think there's a chance that Ingram still steals a lot of high value touches from McKinnon. McKinnon for us is still a pretty good running back this week. Let me see exactly where I have him. He's still a top 24 running back. Ingram is a little bit. So I know Max said to start Ingram because Ingram has a chance to get in the end zone. I would have. Let me just see here. I have Ingram pretty close. I have Ingram a couple spots behind Derek McKinnon, just because Derek McKinnon might also get into the passing game a little bit, and the matchup is really, really good against Miami. I know Cincinnati doesn't have the best defense, but their defense is a little bit better. We haven't seen a ton out of Mark Ingram. He seems to get the first look on the goal line, though. I think we saw Hollywood Brown kind of fall down right at the goal line, and Mark Ingram got the first chance. I don't think he got in last week, but he gets the first look. Against Cincinnati, I think he gets in to the end zone this week. So Otherwise, Diontae Johnson, I think, has a ton of upside. They're saying he's going to get shadowed by Darius Slay, but I still think between Jerick McKinnon and Diontae Johnson, it does make a difference to me a little bit if you're set for behind in the matchup. If you're looking to trail, if he's got a player like Robbie Anderson now I'm blanking. Allen Robinson that had a big game. Diontae Johnson has a much higher ceiling than Jerick McKinnon. Diontae Johnson's ceiling is 2 touchdowns and like 125 yards. We've seen that from him. It's possible that Juju Smith-Schuster gets the Darius Slay treatment, but I think they've switched them in and out from the slot to the outside. Diontae Johnson, his talent is there. I think he has the higher ceiling. The floor play, I think, would be between your running backs. It normally is between your running backs, Jerick McKinnon or Ingram. Jerick McKinnon could get more touches, where Ingram could get the touchdown. So they're close as well for me. But hopefully that kind of helps you out, Rad Videos, to kind of go through our process a little bit on why you would flex a guy like Diontae Johnson over Jerick McKinnon and Mark Ingram. So hopefully that helped you out. If it was Jerick McKinnon by himself and Raheem Mostert was out, Jerick McKinnon would be a smash play, 100%. But because Raheem Mostert's in there, we could see Jerick McKinnon getting maybe only 30% of the touches, Raheem getting 40 to 50% of the touches, and then Jeff Wilson being involved for a little bit more. San Francisco has the best zone running game in the league, and Jerick McKinnon has been looked great in that system. So, but so does Raheem. Raheem can take anything to the house. So, thanks for coming by. Hopefully you liked the video. Hopefully you like our analysis, and hopefully you hit that subscribe button as well, Rad. So, thanks for coming in. And Trey S, morning brother. Good morning. Full PPR, sit one, Gurley, Singletary, Diontae Johnson, roll out Jared Cook or Gesicki or Mo Alley. Because of the issue with the Tennessee Buffalo game, although I do really like Singletary, I would sit him down. Normally I would pick Singletary over Gurley, but in this scenario I would sit Singletary. And between Jared Cook and Gesicki or Mo Alley, I would go with Gesicki. We saw Jared Cook banged up a little bit last week. I'm not sure what his role will be this week, so I would start Gesicki. Herbert or Kirk for start a quarterback league, JP. I would go with I might go with Kirk this week. What do you think, Mac? Would you go with Kirk Cousins this week over Herbert? I think so Mac would go Herbert. I would go Kirk Cousins against Seattle, but they're close. They're right around that fringe between quarterback 13 and quarterback 16 in our ranking. So it's a close one, but Herbert has a tougher matchup, and Kirk Cousins has a good matchup against Seattle. So it's close, though. That's a tough one for me. Lucas is asking, trust Titans players or roll Jonnu Smith or play so Mac is saying go with Latavius. Sounds good. I would agree. Go with Latavius. He was involved in the red zone last week. Maybe he gets more touchdowns. He's going to get 30% of the snaps maybe versus Alvin Kamara. So Latavius does have a pretty safe floor. Where Jonnu, even though he's we love Jonnu Smith, like Mackenzie said in the chat, he's still a tight end. And then it's still a matchup that might not even happen. This is a really tough week when matchups might not happen. But that's the scenario. Earlier this week, if you asked me if it was going to happen, I would say no, because Titans players and coaches and personnel were still testing positive. Now they're trying. The NFL is going to do everything they can for that game to happen right now, but it's going to be close. So we've got a couple more questions, couple more minutes here. We're going to stop the stream shortly, but if the questions keep coming, I'll keep answering. So Ben Lawson, full PPR, Michael Thomas, Devontae Parker, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Diontae Johnson. Start 3. Really tough. Michael Thomas could be a game time decision, and he plays Monday night. So I've been back and forth between Michael Thomas. If you have a really good option like Jefferson, Chark, and Parker, I would start those guys. I would have, although we do like Diontae Johnson, I am going to sit him down based on the options you have in front of you. I don't think any of those guys I have ranked above. So I would start the 3 guys, Devontae Parker, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Sit Michael Thomas and Diontae Johnson because you have so many studs, Ben. I would start your studs. And then if Michael Thomas plays and has a great game, then he's an auto start rest of season. But Diontae, so going forward, if Diontae Johnson has a great ceiling as well, but so do your other wide receivers, you should probably trade 1 or 2 of those guys and get a stud elite running back like a Kamara or a Zeke Elliott or a Derrick Henry. And so you have an easier start sit and you upgrade out of position like running back. But you have 5 awesome wide receivers. So your team is set for a championship, man. So get locked and loaded. Tony Bears, start Bridgewater in 15 minutes or roll the dice. I would start Bridgewater just because of the risk of it not happening. G Diaz has Hayden Hurst or Zach Ertz. This is the first Hayden Hurst or Zach Ertz question I've had. So in a half PPR league, I technically have Zach Ertz higher, but the chance of Hayden Hurst having a bigger game I think is higher as well because of right now Philadelphia just needs bodies, and Zach Ertz is going to get shadowed and going to get covered the entire game. We saw last week that Wentz couldn't get him the ball. Hayden Hurst, even though Julio Jones is out, that's not going to get him shadow covered against Carolina. Carolina has a worse defense. I think the floor play still is Zach Ertz, where the ceiling play is Hayden Hurst. And I do hope that Zach Ertz has a bounce back game. We drafted him to be that guy. I've got Zach Ertz in a couple leagues, but yeah, I'll get to that. But yeah, so yeah, I would say that's pretty much my answer there, G. Jokes. Last question of the morning. Should I start Diontae Johnson or Le'Veon Bell? And isn't it just apropos to have a Diontae Johnson question come in as our last question of the day? We've been full of Diontae questions, and hopefully this is going to help you out. And I would start Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson, although he is our running back, our wide receiver, between 27, I still think he has potential. Way higher upside than Le'Veon Bell. He even potentially has a safer floor than Le'Veon coming off an injury. So I know Le'Veon Bell is back, and you might need to start Le'Veon in a lot of matchups if you guys have him. I know I do. But I would go Diontae Johnson for the ceiling, even for the floor. So go with Diontae for a big game. So let's go with that. Great question, guys. And we will be good to go. So good luck, everyone, on their matchups. Thanks for coming by. We have 28 likes. You guys are awesome. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will be back next week for an hour and 45 minutes to answer every single question you have. Again, we did not miss one today. What's that? And yeah, check out our waiver video on Tuesday. That's been our best video of the week. Check it out. It's coming out Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And we will be locked and loaded to help you figure out every waiver ad and how much fab and priority you need to spend on these players. So thanks a lot, guys, and we will see you next Sunday.